Hello, hi, good morning, everybody,
Hi,
or good evening,
Bhavika.
wherever you are.
Can you hear me as well?
Yes, I can hear you. Am I
Okay.
audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, great.
Okay, this is so good. Good to see you. Good morning.
Yes, and good to see you too, Aster.
I know we've been I think we've been in connection since our BDS, but we've really not like gotten the chance to talk properly.
That's
And
true. That's true. Like we've seen each other around, but never really, got together to have a
yeah,
conversation. But yeah, that's good that we now finally get to meet and talk.
I know. And congratulations. I mean,
Thank you
you
so
made
much.
it to your DDS journey. It's amazing and so
Thank
proud. I
you so
think a
much.
lot of them are really happy to see that you're in this journey now.
Yes.
Um, yeah,
And
and
congratulations to you too for
yeah,
the postdoctoral fellowship that
yeah.
you
Thank you. Thank
joined.
you so much.
Of course.
Yeah, so well, I know a lot of us are here to know your story
Mhm.
and get to know your journey as well. So, like, how you've made it through the past cycles, you've finally got into the program. So, just to get to know a little bit more about you for those who have joined, can you tell us from where you are and how you made it here?
Of course. So I am Bhavika Gupta. I used to be an associate dentist in New Delhi, India. And honestly, coming to the US to study here, in order to practice here, has been a dream since the time I joined BDS. So I've always been interested in coming to the US because US is the epicenter for excellence, and I am somebody who's always chased excellence. So it was a no-brainer for me to come here for the vast sea of opportunity that the US is, especially for internationally trained dentists. So yeah, I graduated from my BDS in 2022. I was then practicing for 2 years. While I was practicing, I was also traveling back and forth in order to give my IMBD exams, my ADAT exam, and get some US work experience. I applied, and in my second cycle, I got into University of Michigan. That's my story in short.
Yep, and thank you so much for sharing that. I do want to know like, so how did you like start building your profile once you knew you wanted to like come to the US to pursue dentistry?
All right, so I started really early because I knew from the get-go that I want to go to the US for my further studies. One way I started early was by attending all sorts of conferences that were happening in my college. So, be it a small, college conference or be it like a big national, international conference like the Indian Dental Conference, I would attend any conference that I could get my hands on. What attending these conferences allowed was it gave me exposure to what's happening in industry around the world. And second thing, I could participate in scientific programs of these conversations, of these conferences, be it a poster presentation, be it paper presentation. So just, the exposure, meeting people from all over the world and getting that exposure to speak publicly was game changing for me. Other than that, I also started a research project when I was in third year of school, and that sort of introduced me to research aspects of dentistry. So just keeping my eyes and ears open and just grabbing onto any opportunity that I could get. I think that really helped me build my profile leading up to the CAPIT application.
Yeah, and I think following that, there are also some requirements in terms of examinations to like, just be able to apply to the CAPIT cycle. So like, how was your preparation for INBDE or TOEFL or like what other exams do you also have to give?
So I gave INDD, ADAT, and TOEFL. I even gave Casper for UCLA, but that's like another story. So for INBDE, I started preparing during my internship. I actually have a whole, 20-minute long YouTube video about it. You guys can check it out. It's on my YouTube channel,
Yeah.
link in bio. But yeah, so I started preparing an internship, but it was like an okayish, like nothing too serious. I started preparing seriously right after graduation. So I graduated in November of 2022 and I gave my exam in April of 2023. So I had like 3-4 months to sort of prepare for the exam. Yeah, and then after that, I decided to just go for ADAT. And within 2 months of giving my IMPD, I gave my ADAT back to back. So the IMPD prep helped with ADAT as well. And then TOEFL, I gave somewhere in between. Again, it was an easy exam. If you already can speak English, I don't think you have to like prepare separately for it. You can. I mean, they just want to assess if you can speak and understand English. So that was not a big deal. Other than that, Casper I gave right before UCLA admissions, just to
Yeah.
apply to UCLA. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, those are really important while applying as well. So, like, I think we do have a question about why did you think of giving ADAT?
Yeah. So I would love to answer the question right now. So ADAT I decided to give because I was a fresh graduate student. And I mean, while I did have some research experience and while I did have, poster presentations and all of that going on in my profile, there was nothing as such that was setting me apart. So
Yeah.
I thought that getting like a good ADAT score would be a quantitative measure through which I will be setting myself apart from other fresh graduates. And so instead of I basically had two pathways that I could take. One was either going through the preceptorship route, and the other was taking the ADAT. Since I had a bit of a time constraint, I decided to take the ADAT, and honestly, that paid dividends. And I
Yeah.
think ADAT was a game changer for me. Yeah.
Yeah, and like, how did you prepare for the ADAT? Is it very much like the INBD exam, or do you have different resources to use?
So it's a slightly bit different. Um, it's not completely different. It's just if the INPD is like, if they're testing your overall knowledge, ADAT is testing your knowledge of the details. So
Yeah.
it's sort of like INPD, but just more in detail. Um, and there are some parts of the ADAT exam which are not covered in INPD, for example, basic sciences and the research section.
Yeah.
So yes, you do need some extra resources for ADAT. However, if you've just given your INDD and you're deciding to go straight to ADAT, that transition will actually help you. So, I mean, I personally recommend if you've given the INDD, give the ADAT in the next 2, 3, 4 months. Don't wait up till the next year or later to give ADAT, because at least that will sort of make your preparation more comprehensive.
Yeah, and I think also there's I think it's mentioned on the website as well for University of Michigan where you can apply with ADAT. I think it's one of the schools which says it's not mandatorily required, but
Yeah.
like it's considered. So do
Yeah.
you see a lot of your now you're in the program, so like do you see a lot of your batchmates in who have given ADAT, or is it also the students who have not given in your class?
That's a great question, to be honest. So the thing is, in the US, like the US schools, nobody actually requires you to give an ADAT. ADAT
Yeah.
is an optional school for all of the schools, right? But the ADAT score, because it's a quantitative score, it's an actual score. It's not like a pass or fail in the IMDb. The score can help set you apart from other people who are applying. Right, which is why UMich, they sort of encourage you to give the ADAT, but ADAT is not required. When it comes to my class, we actually, I think, have a 50-50 ratio of people who've given the ADAT and who've not given the ADAT. So it's not that they only accept people who've given ADAT and who've scored well in ADAT, they also accept people who've not given ADAT. So it
Okay.
depends on your overall profile, but
Yeah.
yes, if you have given ADAT and if you have scored well in it, you do, um, I mean, your chances, increase exponentially.
Okay. Yeah, like so addressing those exams that you've given already. Um, yeah, okay. So coming to what are what are the challenges that you faced during this whole process?
Okay, so one of the major challenges I faced was visa. So if you guys don't know, during the first during my first cycle, I did get accepted into Buffalo. However, I could not get my F1 visa in time, and so I had to give up that seat and I had to apply again the next cycle. I mean, everything worked out for the best because I got into UMich. But yeah, navigating through, visa issues can be a huge headache, especially if you're on a B1, B2, going to an F1. That can be a major challenge. I mean, a lot of time people ask me, is it easy? Is it, doable, manageable, whatever? I say, you know what, getting into school is still the easier aspect. If you're a B1, B2, and if you want to get an F1, that I feel is like the toughest part of
Yeah.
it. So, yeah. I mean, and plus
Yeah.
laws, rules are changing every day. So I think visa is a major challenge.
Yeah, and I think like it is also important to kind of read the websites the dental school says what kind of visa you should be in when you're
Mhm.
applying.
Yeah,
So for those listening, make sure like you check out the dental school websites as well to
yeah.
really know what your requirements are and where you can stand and apply. The next question is like, so what according to you is like the key elements to, stand out in your application?
Okay, so key elements really depends on where you are in life right now. If if you're somebody who's a fresh graduate, your profile will look very different from somebody who graduated, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Right? So it really depends on where you are in life. I can tell you what, the key elements are as a fresh graduate, since I'm a fresh graduate. So what set me apart and what sets profiles apart, I think, are ADAT score, then being great on your bench test. If, for example, you get invited for an interview and a bench exam, make sure that you are ready to go and make sure that your preps are perfect, because I mean, that's a chance that you're getting that you don't want to risk. So
Yeah.
I think performing well on bench tests is extremely important. And the third would be having like an X factor. Maybe you can have a research intensive profile, or maybe you can have a volunteering intensive, or maybe you're somebody who has some years of experience, 2 years of experience, 3 years of experience as an associate dentist. So make sure you have some sort of an X factor in your profile. That's not just scores, that's not your GPA, that's not your letter of recommendation. It's like just something that sort of sets you apart. I hope that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And like, thank you for sharing that as well. I do want to like ask on what kind of like there's like this word limit restrictions and things like that when you're like writing your SOP. So how do you think one should work with that?
Chat GPT. Use ChatGPT. Oh my God. It's so easy because I am somebody, when I write pages. When I talk for like a long time, right? So
Yeah.
I I can't contain my words. So what I would do is I wrote down like a rough draft, like a very rough raw draft, and then I used ChatGPT to edit all of that into a very finessed statement of purpose. And honestly, ChatGPT helps a lot, and it's ethical. I mean, as long as you're not, totally relying on ChatGPT, editing on ChatGPT is totally ethical, so you can do that.
Yeah, but like definitely don't expect ChatGPT to like write the entire SOP without not really knowing you as a person,
Yeah, yeah,
like
obviously.
it is important to kind of know your story and like have that and that as well.
Yeah.
So we do have
I
yeah, go on.
Sorry. I would recommend, if you do use ChatGPT for anything, make sure that you have a write up, right, of
Yeah.
your own words. And then you put it into ChatGPT and just ask it to finesse the English. So I think that way, because a lot of times we write as internationally trained, is very different from how Americans write and speak. And
Yeah.
using ChatGPT as a tool, it can bridge that language barrier and that, you know language flow barrier. So I think that's a very important tool that you can utilize during your applications for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And like, so we do also have a question on how to like pick recommenders for the LORs.
Okay.
So how did you go about that?
Okay, so most of the schools they help you out with it. Sorry, they have mentioned on their website what all letters of recommendations they require. Mostly
Yeah,
it's like one letter from the dean, one letter from a professor, and then the third letter can be of your choice, right? So even
yeah,
in Michigan it's the same format: one from dean, one from your professor, and one from any third person you want. How I went about it was I got one letter from the dean. I got one letter from a very like from one of my favorite professors, and the third letter I got from my boss in India. I did not get a letter from an American dentist. A lot of people say that you should have a letter from an American dentist or like some
yeah,
American person. However, I mean, it depends from school to school. I guess University of Michigan, they want to see letters from people with whom you've worked for a long time, with whom
okay,
you've done substantial amount of work. So they would rather get views from them rather than from somebody with whom you've worked for like 10 days or 2 months or 3 months. So I would say prioritize uh, quality rather
yeah,
than you know just just like relying on Facebook groups and you know
yeah.
don't don't follow the herd mentality. Try to set yourself apart, I would say.
That's a great insight. I mean, definitely just to work, just not taking randomly any kind of LOR that you can like get.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
good
yeah.
to be having quality over that.
Yeah, for sure. I
Yeah,
mean, even if it's from somebody in India or even if it's from somebody, who you might think is not high enough to, refer
yeah,
you, if you've done good amount of work together and if they can for sure say what sort of a person you are, that letter
yeah.
is more crucial than the letter you get from an American dentist or from any other source.
And like considering you've got acceptances even during your last cycle, and here you are the cycle two. So like, how did you prepare with your interviews? What tips do you have to share on that?
Again, ChatGPT. I use ChatGPT to prepare for interviews in the sense that, like, I would write in the prompt that I'm a dental student preparing for interviews to the US. I mean, I would write all the
Yeah,
details and I would ask ChatGPT to generate questions. And then I would just like sit in front of the camera, sort of time myself, practice those questions. Another thing was that I practiced a lot with my sister in the sense that she has been crucial in, telling me what's the right way to answer, what's the wrong way to answer. She's an MBA graduate, so the way these MBA people they, practice for interviews, it's just insane. I mean, like their interviews are they're very intense.
okay,
So I mean, whatever I learned from her for interviews, and even if I applied, 2% of all that knowledge into our dental interviews, so that paid dividends. Make, I mean, ultimately, the point of this is make sure that you practice with real humans as well and you get their feedback.
yeah,
Get their feedback as to, if you're understandable, if your words are being enunciated well. So if they can understand what you're saying, if your flow is good, if you're talking at a very normal speed, if you're not rushing, if you're not talking too slowly, you should be talking at a very normal speed. So make
yeah.
sure you get feedback from other people and practice with them. Yeah, so
Okay.
this is how
And
I basically practiced.
And like, how different are the interviews in different schools? So, like, if you don't mind sharing, you must have got other school invites as well. And how were they different from each other, even considering with University of Michigan?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I interviewed with three schools. I interviewed with USC, Buffalo, and University of Michigan. I can tell you about these schools because that's what I know. But honestly, every school is different for sure. So make sure that your concepts are good. Concepts. I don't mean dental concepts. By concepts, I mean just basics of interviewing with people.
Yeah.
That should be set in place for all schools, right? Anyway, so USC was a group, it was like a group interview sort of a thing. They gave us a case and we had to, a dental medical case, and we had to sort of, through their problem based learning method, solve the case, that sort of thing. So it was a group exercise essentially. And there was a faculty who would, look at you and sort of judge all of that.
Yeah.
And then for Buffalo, Buffalo was a sit down interview. So it was two people who were interviewing me, two faculty members from Buffalo. Buffalo was a very, I would say, relaxed interview. They were asking normal interview questions, be it behavioral questions, ethical questions, protocol questions. So very basic questions, nothing exceptional. I think ultimately they wanted to see if if you can think on your own, if you have a
Yeah.
personality, if you're not too rigid. They just want, people who are normal, right? So make sure that you're yourself and like nothing to sweat. I mean, yeah, Buffalo was a very relaxed interview, nothing special. I think Buffalo, the bench test is quite challenging.
Intense.
I think
Yeah.
that's where
That's
they
what I
really,
heard too.
yeah, that's where they really sieve people and yeah, so interview was pretty relaxed. With Michigan, we had a Kira online Kira assessment. um, Honestly, when I gave my Kira, I thought I had done really bad, but apparently I had not. And with Michigan, it's like they ask a lot of ethical questions,
Mhm.
and they are very unique ethical questions such that you can't really prepare. I feel like no matter how much I prepared, I could not have guessed the kind of questions they would ask. It's just so unique, right?
Okay.
So with Michigan, I would say, be yourself. um, it will be so, the questions will be so out of the blue that you won't be able to give a perfect answer. And they don't expect a perfect answer. They just want to sort of see how you think, what your thought process is like, if you can do some amount of critical thinking. That's what I think they're looking for. So just be yourself, be calm, don't stress out, and don't, I think that's also another thing that schools want to see, if how do you take stressful situations.
Yeah.
So maybe some people, they get stressed out and they're not able to speak or think or, do anything. So they
Yeah.
just want to see how you sort of react in a stressful situation. So yeah, I think so basically three things I would say would be: one, be yourself; two, don't be stressed because schools can see if you're stressed or not;
Yeah.
and third would be I mean, take a minute to think and then speak. Yeah.
Is MMI one of the like similar to Kira, or is it a whole different thing?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, the actual term is MMI, but
Okay.
it was Akira essentially.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've adopted Kira, but it is an
Okay.
MMI.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think all of these three, definitely Kira, you didn't have to be in person in the campus,
No,
right?
no. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was online. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
gave it from India.
And
Mm-hmm.
I think some interviews you have to be in person in the
Mm-hmm.
campus. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
USC and Buffalo, I was on campus.
yeah, so it's also important to like, even during that time, it's important to like at least have a visitor visa so that when you're called for interview, you can like fly to the school and like be there in
Definitely.
person. So
Definitely, yes.
Yeah. And so now you've already started the program, and how has your experience been so far? Oh, I cannot hear you.
Hello,
Oh,
hi.
yeah,
Sorry,
I can hear you.
my Instagram app keeps closing off because of the time limit. I just removed the time limit. I'm really sorry.
Okay. No, it's okay.
Okay.
So my question was now you've already, I mean, it's not a question, you've already started your program, and how has your experience been so far? Has it been a week already?
It's been a month. We
Okay.
just, yeah, it's been a month and the experience has been amazing, honestly. I feel like I'm living my best life, because this
Yeah.
is what I had worked so hard for. And now that
Yeah.
I'm finally here, it's amazing. I love it. The people are great. Our batch is amazing. Touch wood, knock on wood. And everybody is so helpful. Everybody is so, every day I come to school and everybody's like happy. They're all chirpy. They're like, good
Yeah, I
morning,
mean,
you know. Back in India, everything used to be like, yeah, whatever. But here it's like, good morning. And yeah,
yeah.
so it's great. I love it.
And how are you finding the winter? I mean, I don't know if you've like have experienced a Michigan winter before.
Yeah, this is my first North American winter, and the first few days were rough in the sense that every time I walk out, my heart would start, pounding that
Yeah.
it's too cold, get inside, you'll die, you'll die. But yeah, I mean, eventually, I think it took me a week to get used to it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think now I'm kind of used to it. Yeah.
Okay. That is good. So, what do you think, or what is your advice for people like just adjusting this transition, once they get into the program and like that?
I guess I'm still in that process, so I can't really give any advice, as so to say. But what I made a rule for myself that during this initial period, I have to be three things. I have to be friendly. I have to be unassuming in the sense that whatever preconceived notions I have to, let them go
Yeah.
and just be in the present. And the third thing is that I have to be open-minded in the sense that not say no to things, try to do whatever there is,
Yeah.
try to say yes more than no. So yeah, these three things I made a rule for myself, and if that helps somebody else, they can do that as well. But yeah,
Yeah. I mean, that's a great way to start 2025.
yeah,
I mean, that's really a good way to start, I guess.
yeah.
And so we do have questions coming, and some of them are about TOEFL. So, like,
Hmm.
I do want to ask you about TOEFL preparations, and like, there
Hmm.
are times when some schools have these minimum requirements as well for each section. So, how
Hmm.
did you beat that? And yeah, so about resources as well, if you want to share.
Hmm. Okay, so I gave TOEFL just once, and I got a score of 114 in it. I honestly prepared through YouTube. So there's this channel called ETS Prep or something.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think it's called ETS Prep. And there's this other channel called Magoosh.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think it's called Magoosh. I'm not sure. But basically, search on YouTube, free resources for TOEFL. And I think doing as many questions as possible, that is very important. And getting used to the, you know, format of testing, that's very important. The one section where I did struggle a lot was speaking, because again, once I start speaking, I don't stop. So, like condensing your thoughts into a very
Yeah.
small amount of time, that takes practice, right?
Yeah.
So again, using Chat GPT, getting feedback from other people and just making them time you and having, um, formats in place using the PREP format like point, reason, example, point. So just having those frameworks in place really helps. And yeah, practice is key. Make sure that you do any sort of free sample questions available online, do their sample tests, get on Reddit and do any sort of, free sample stuff you can find online and just practice.
Yeah. And I think, considering the resources, there are plenty of resources available just online. And even if
Yeah.
you want to have paid resources, and then Chat GPT, I mean, as long as you know to make the right use of it, you can definitely like get a good score. And tell me more about your bench preparations. Like, how did you prepare for it? What kind of questions do you think are very important to practice on?
Mhm. So for bench test, I did a bench test prep course at Dr. Stevenson's, and honestly, this is unsponsored, but uh, but oh my God, Aster, um, how
I
do I?
remember you vlogging and like kind of like showing
Yeah,
your experience when you were in Stevenson's.
it was great, honestly. So Dr. Stevenson's course, it's a little on the expensive side, and I was a little doubtful, if it'll even be helpful. I'm spending so much money. I could buy a car with this sort of money.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's and then I was very doubtful. But then the first day at Dr. Stevenson's, clinic, I realized this is worth every single penny. And honestly, if I would suggest, if you have the resources, if you have the opportunity to go learn from him, you should. Not just for bench test, even in general. He's such a good teacher, and he explains everything to the T. I mean, honestly, that was a very life-changing moment for me, learning from him. He's a great person.
And is there like a huge difference on how we do crown preps back in India to how they
Definitely.
teach here?
Definitely. He will explain the minor details of an amalgam class too. And you'll be like, oh my God, there's so much thought in a prep,
Yeah.
which we don't even think about. And there's like engineering, it's a very well engineered prep. And he explains all of that. It's fabulous. I loved it. And yeah, other than the bench test prep course, I got all my material in India as well as the US, and I practiced a lot. So, I mean, I think you get the interview invite 30 days before the actual interview. So, you do have 30 days, to practice. So, during those 30 days, I think I did 2 to 3 preps every day.
Okay.
And leading up to the interview invite, I did practice, during my free time or something. I think practice here also is key, because the more you practice, the better you get at it. And um, for example, a lot of people, they have to practice for bench prep after being out of touch from dentistry for a long time. Honestly, it is doable. Just watch, Dr. Stevenson's videos online, watch any videos online, and just practice. And if possible, show it to the dentist that you're working with, the American dentist you're working with, or lots of prep critique services are also out there, like for example Capit Simplified and all. They all
Yeah.
critique your prep. So I mean, get out there and show people your preps. I mean, feel free to send them to me also. If I'm free, I
Yeah.
will critique them. And just, yeah, practice is key.
I think coming to showing your preparations as well, your cavity preps or anything, like if you're assisting at a dental clinic, you can definitely approach the dentist
Yes.
there and to like, mark your effort there and how you did it. And definitely also like reaching out to Dr. Bhavika or the students who are in the program. And there are students and there are platforms out there who are also like willing to kind of help you in the bench preparations. And
Yeah.
I did see a couple of questions about the price for Stevenson's. I think you can approach the websites and they'll have their openings for every month, I guess, based on their availability and showing how much is the price for it as well. There are a couple more bench preparations courses as well in the US if you're looking for, and I think there's also one in India as well if for those who are in India.
Even
So I
that I've heard is very
yeah
good, honestly. If you want to
yeah
get that prep, in India. That's also good. I've
Yeah, I
heard good
think
reviews about it.
yeah, I cannot recall the name, but
It's
I think somewhere in
ODA,
Chandigarh. Okay,
ODA
ODA.
in Chandigarh. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
professor, ODA's owner, Dr. Joshi, he used to teach us in second year of our
Oh,
college.
wow.
Yeah, so
Okay,
he,
that is good to know. Yeah.
yeah, he's also a very good teacher. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think like we were talking earlier, there are a lot of resources available. So like, just start with one and then you can go from there, than just like starting from nothing, you know. So I think we did address a lot of questions from LOR SOPs. And if we missed out on anything, just feel free to comment the questions below. And then we can like kind of address them as well. So we do have one question about like what are the common questions that you come across during a bench exam?
Okay, bench exam. So in general, common things that people ask for are class two preps, class two restorations, be it amalgam or composite, um, crown preps, all sorts of crown preps. So be it zirconia crown prep, be it an all ceramic, be it a PFM. So crown preps on all teeth, mostly maxillary teeth, but honestly, they can ask any teeth,
Yeah.
any tooth. Then what else? Um, mm, mm. Yeah,
Radiographic
mostly these
as
things.
well.
Sorry.
Do you also have radiographic interpretations too?
I think some schools do. I think some schools do. They have an
Okay.
OSCE sort of a thing. I'm not sure to be honest.
Yeah. Okay.
I think maybe so. University of Washington, they have a very tough bench. They ask access preparation, class four restoration, and I think surveying. Yeah, so University
Okay.
of Washington has a few couple of extra exercises, but mostly it is class twos, crown preps. Um, yeah, like
Okay.
these two things you should be perfect at those. Yeah.
Okay. And so how about crafting your CV? How many pages should it be and how do you go about that? What things to mention and what not to?
Okay, so generally the university that you're applying to, they will provide you with the format if they require a CV. However, I would say a CV should be 2 pages long. It should not be more than 2 pages long. But if you're somebody who has a lot of experience, like you've been in clinical practice for 10, 15, 20 years and you've gained a lot of experience, then it maybe could be 3 pages long, you know. But for a
Yeah.
fresh graduate, I think 2 pages long is more than enough. And yeah, with CV, what else? Yeah, one section that people miss out on in CV is roles of leadership. Make sure
Mm.
that you highlight whatever leadership role you've had in the past in your resume. Because American schools, they want leaders, they want people who have qualities of a leader. So make sure you highlight that. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you have to craft it completely on the basis of what you did in dentistry, or can it be anything outside dentistry as well?
It can be. If you have medical experience outside of dentistry, make sure you mention that. Public health experience, make sure you mention that. They love that. If you've done some sort of co-curricular activities, you can, mention a line or two in that. If you've done blogging, for example, I did a lot of blogging in BDS. I mentioned it under roles of leadership that
Yeah.
um, I spearheaded a blog and stuff. So make
Yeah.
sure you highlight all the things you've done and all the, if you've made change, like if you've created impact through your work, make sure that you mention it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so happy for you that you made it this far and you're like already in this program because I remember your page, the almost dentist, and like
Yeah,
even meeting. I've met
yeah,
Shraddha
the
as
almost
well.
dentist OG.
Yeah. I've met Dr. Shraddha as well, but I think I'm glad how this turned out, and then like I also get to talk to you now, and
Yeah.
it's yeah, it's a full circle. But coming to a couple more questions, we have someone asking about, once you get into the program, the payment part of it, how do you pay the fees and like the loan part? So, if you have any pointers on that, would be great.
Okay, so you can definitely take student loans here. There are a lot of banks, a lot of private companies who offer student loans. However, the key thing is that if you don't have a cosigner, the interest can be a bit high. It can be, 12, 13%, even more, I think. But if you have a cosigner who's an American citizen, your interest is drastically, decreased. So it can be between 6 to 8%, right?
Yeah,
So I mean, if you are somebody on a B1, B2 visa looking to come to the US, make sure that you have a cosigner. But honestly, even if you don't, it's not like it's impossible. I know a lot of people. In fact, one of the persons in my class, he is financing it through a loan in India. So even India even in India, you can get student loans for here. But again,
yeah,
in India, the problem is for a collateral. You'll have to, give some sort of collateral to the bank, all of that. So yeah, I think that's an important conversation you should have with your family as to how you can finance, this whole process because it
yeah.
is it is expensive. Again, I have a YouTube video on the financial aspect of the application process. So make
Yeah.
sure to check it out on my YouTube, The Global Dentists.
Yeah, and I think you also have a video on where you broke down the expenses for
Yes.
the whole process and everything. So I
Yeah.
think for those asking, y'all can also check out that. Couple more questions on the resources. We've already discussed that earlier. So if you have joined now, please make sure once we upload this live later, y'all can check out. So I think we have definitely answered a lot of questions. So thank you so much for doing this. And a couple,
Actually,
yeah.
there's a question which I want to answer. Can we
Yeah,
shadow in a dental clinic in US with B1 visa? Yes, you
yeah,
can shadow in a dental clinic on a B1 visa. However, on B1 you can't get paid. So,
yeah,
you just can't get a paid job. But yes, you can shadow, you can observe. Another thing, if you're looking for a shadowing experience on a B1, B2, make sure you go to a suburb or, don't look for it in a city like Manhattan or LA because finding those opportunities there will be quite challenging. It's not impossible, it's
yeah.
challenging. Uh, but if you go to, suburbs or rural areas, you'll find plenty of opportunities.
I think since we are also in this topic of dental assisting, I also want to mention that every state has different rules, and it's the same applies to dental clinics as well. Sometimes dentists do not want to just do volunteering if you do not have any background in it, but you have a strong point in saying that you are a dentist back home, so you kind of understand on how the process of it is, but also stressing about on the terms that you understand the ethical standards here is important and letting know the dental clinic. As far as that, there is a huge difference in dental assisting as well. We think that back home, as a dentist, we could like, kind of ace it here. There's a lot to do in just understanding the sterilization steps and even the radiographic interpretations or taking the radiograph. So I think volunteering in the US is a very good start to, kind of introduce yourself to the dentistry in the US as well. S-
100%. Yeah.
yeah, and also some states require licenses, so you could like check out on Google, just Google based on the state you are in, and find out what are the requirements for just dental assisting. Sometimes you need to have a DA license, give your DAN BA exams and everything. And some clinics can offer you just because you're volunteering, you can just get the experience by shadowing or observing. I think that should be it. And if you have a couple more questions, feel free to reach out to us, DM us in Dental Student Society. We do have great DSS ambassadors who are willing to help you all and mentor. And you can also reach out to Dr. Bhavika and check out her YouTube channel as well. So, a lot of resources available in terms of success stories who have got into the program and those in this journey as well. So thank you all for joining, and thank you so much, Dr. Bhavika, for doing this on a
Yeah, of course.
weekend. I know.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you so much for having me, and it was lovely talking to you. Meet me soon in
Yeah.
school.
Yes.
Also,
Maybe once the winter is done.
yeah, of course, of course. And if any of the people watching, if you have any questions, definitely feel free to DM me. And yeah, you can definitely check my YouTube channel. It's called The Global Dentists. Yeah.
Right. And happy weekend, everybody.
Yeah.
Take care.
Happy weekend. Have a great weekend. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.